Thanks for joining us. This is live with the Miami Community News, and today we're going to be talking about a lot of things about health and a lot of issues about men's mental health. Our guest today is the Chief Medical Officer of Keralty. Is that it?
Keralty Hospital.
Keralty
Yes.
Hospital. Abid Chaudhry.
Yes, it is.
Close. Okay. All right. So a couple things. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your last 10 years of journey, and then we're going to talk about a little bit before that, before we get on to the hospital, the services provided.
Sounds good. How long are we going to be here? Because 10 years is a long time. Appreciate you having us here. Thank you for this platform. So, yes, currently I'm the CMO for Keralty Hospital at this point. So I'm originally from New York. Moved down to Miami approximately 13 years ago now. Did my residency, my specialty training in New York, and decided to come down here with all this beautiful water out here. And ever since, been here within Miami. I've been in multiple hospitals. So essentially, my specialty is emergency medicine. So I've been at a clinical level, at an administrative level at multiple hospitals down in South Miami. So pretty much embedded in the Miami area.
And your residency was in what?
In emergency medicine.
That must be pretty interesting. Is there what's going to come in next?
It is actually. You don't know what's coming in next, and that's the beauty of our practice. We kind of thrive off of that essentially. So there's a lot of physicians that want to know what's next, what's the next hour going to be, and we thrive on it doesn't matter. Give us what we need.
To my friends that are dermatologists, this is where the action is, baby. Rather than okay,
this is where the action is.
Right. So it can be from minor stuff to like crisis.
It could be anything. We're talking to a stub toe, to gunshot wounds, to massive strokes or heart attacks. So it's very versatile.
So the one of the things that we found, a lot of people have figured out early on in their lives what they want to do and how they want their life to go. When did you realize you wanted to be a physician?
So it's funny you ask. Actually, my first love was to be a pilot. So I actually got into the Air Force Academy when I was 17 years old. And then I got the call from Denver, Colorado, said, well, we need you to come in to do a physical exam. And I go, oh, wait, now it's at home. And I said, I have to go to Colorado at 17 years old. And the next inclination was medicine. That's it. I jumped on the medicine wagon, unfortunately.
That's tremendous. And you never know how that occurs in our brains. I want to do that. Right?
That's right. It's true. You'll see people in your lives. So my father was in medicine business. He was a lab tech. He was a veterinarian originally, and then wind up being a lab tech. Once he transitioned from Pakistan, where I'm originally from, to New York. And there's a lot of people in your life that will shape you. So regardless of whether I wanted to be a pilot, that it still was in me, and here I am.
So the person that helped shape that was
100%. My father, of course.
And we never know when that's going to kick in.
That's right.
And when I started graduate school, a zillion years ago, the professor says, "What do you want to do?" Run community newspapers. Then I changed it, effectively run, and then own. My father did. All right, that's it. I don't need to do it. I don't need the rest of this 8.5 by 14 sheets. So if you're lucky, you find that passion to be able to do that.
That's right. And let me segue also. And this is interesting. So regardless of what you wind up doing, there's a lot of people that have other interests in life. So you can be successful at something. So for instance, in my case, so I'm a physician, but also I'm a police officer. So there's, you'll always, yes, there's, it never stops. That desire and that urge to continue never stops. And you shouldn't. And here I am, living proof.
So November is Men's Health Awareness.
Yes, it is.
So let's talk about some of the issues that the men over the age of 40 or 35 should pay attention to. Let's hear it.
So, it's one of those parts of medicine, let's put it, that within the community, within society, it's under discussed. We don't have that discussion. Today we at the hospital, so this is Men's Health Awareness Month. And so everyone in celebration of that, we all wore blue. We took a group shot, and one of my colleagues, there you go, one of my colleagues standing next to me during the shot says, I never knew there was such a thing as men's health. And I said, see, so this is the point, actually. So you'd be surprised, people within our industry are not aware of men's health and think about everyone else outside.
So one of the things we recognize, we were just with some folks from the Chapman Partnership, we were talking about mental illness. And in spite of our best efforts, there's still a stigma that's attached to mental illness, from neuroses to psychosis and that whole range in between. And only recently has there been mental health days off for people. And so people are starting to recognize, hey, I might have a stressful day, and being able to talk about it, but there still is that stigma. As I believe there's this quietness about men's health, all right? And we were doing some research, what kind of support groups are brain cancer, this, that? Is there a prostate cancer support group?
There is, actually. You'd be surprised. So it exists. It's that we're not talking about it. And that's the whole point of having this kind of conversation, that we need to discuss on higher platforms, that there is, a men's health, a mental health issue, crisis, as a matter of fact. The incidence of diseases that are going on in men's health, it's incredible. It's astounding, as a matter of fact. For example, prostate cancer. It's one of the leading causes of death in men in the United States, and we're not talking about it enough.
And why isn't that conversation being taken place?
In society, we all have roles, and that machismo factor exists. It's that testosterone. So men are less likely to discuss their issues, their health issues. And it could be society, it could be family, it could be there's various reasons within, but it does exist that we are not talking about it. The stigma is there.
In the 60s and 70s, your girlfriend, your wife, just go to the doctor, get some Valium, you'll be okay. All right. But you never hear the conversation. Back then it was Valium. I don't know what it is. Say, Abid, go to the doctor and get some whatever it is. And so it's huge stigma. I have friends that have been in the mental health arena for years, and he said, Michael, it used to be sex, drugs, and rock and roll, 90 days, 120 days. I don't think it's 30 days anymore. And so we know that stuff doesn't change overnight, and it takes a long time. To be able to have an open discussion is tough. And one of the things that the pandemic did for all of us is allowed us to be a little bit freer with our emotions, because we know there are 140,000 kids that don't have caretakers anymore, that a year and a half ago they had them. And the trauma that has occurred to each of us certainly has some lasting effects. But let's talk about the stress from the pandemic, what it might mean to a man age 60, 65, 70.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Our stressors, and thus our stress level has increased over the last 30, 40 years. And then this last year and a half, 2 years, the pandemic has brought this into light. Individuals, you have caretakers that have died, and who's left behind. So there's so much that, we're dealing with at this point, that people are not coping, and it's at the end of the day, it's about coping mechanisms. So we either have them or we don't. And the faster you learn how to cope with all the stresses, because, last year was COVID, 2 years, it might be something else. So irrespective of whatever disease process is happening or how economy is doing, our coping mechanisms have to be strong, have to be still there. And that has to be instilled in us from the time that we're young.
So with prostate cancer, prostate health, all right, obviously we have to take care of that. We have emotional health that we need to take care of. What are some other issues that men face in particular versus a woman?
Well, we have also testicular cancer as well. So in terms of men's health, the top two, in honesty, is the prostate cancer and the testicular cancers are on the rise over the last 30, 40 years. And that could be in due to part that we're having more conversations. There's more discussions. So there is more the ability for us to be able to pick up on these processes.
So certainly when you hear prostate cancer, you think of no sexual function anymore, maybe urinating yourself, very embarrassing kind of conversations. But it's when that conversation can take place that people can get in a healthier place. So if somebody has an issue with their prostate, let's say they've already had it removed or whatever it happens to be, where could they go find some conversations, some health
So,
conversations?
so you're absolutely right. The anxiety that is associated with not just having the disease process, but the aftermath, the complications. Those are real. They do exist, and again, we're reluctant to discuss those. So, it really starts with the patient seeking out help. That's number one. And then the medical community, we also have to realize that this may be an issue for a patient or individual to discuss. So we have to be the individuals to start that conversation.
The last couple times I've been a doctor or a nurse, whatever, they would ask you, are you afraid of hurting yourself or somebody else? That stuff brings it out of the closet, brings it up so that maybe they're going to get a little clue with that. Somebody I know texted me the other day and he says, Michael, I need your help. I went, oh, this is ominous. I call him, what's going on? My daughter was all cracked out. She came after me with a knife. And I listened to him. And that whole family went through months of grief. And then somebody else, the boy is 18. He was taking migraine medicine. He overdosed, and he went to his computer. Everything was there. That he took 4 or 5, whatever it was, because he wanted some help. So there's these little clues as we go along. All right, but if we go back to prostate health, if people should go get PSAs, what else should they do?
So, in terms of prostate health and prostate cancers, it's a slow growing cancer. A lot of the cases are not picked up for years. Why? Because there's no symptoms. So the medical community has to be on top of this situation. And how do we do this? So there's certain individuals that are a little higher risk. African Americans are higher risk at getting prostate cancer than the average white male. Okay, the age is a factor as well. So usually after 50 years of age is where we really start concentrating on doing testing that will allow us to figure this out, whether you have it or not. And the higher risk individuals, you should have PSAs. Like you said, it's a quick blood test, very simple blood test that you can get at your doctor's office, and you should do this on a yearly level. In conjunction, a little more sensitive exam is a DRE, which is a digital rectal exam, but does supply us with a lot of information. We have MRIs, we have multiple types of scans that can pick up even the smallest cancer.
So why is it that women don't have a real big problem saying, I'm going to OBGYN today, and it's more of a, I'm not in their shoes, but it's more of a social thing. Okay, and the guys go, yeah, of course, but you go. It's
right?
Right?
How we are hardwired. We are taught not to open up, and until it's too late, unfortunately, and then you'll see men don't have an issue at that point.
So we know that some people who don't have a big strong support system wind up going too late, whether it's for a heart attack or for cancer. We know that if men are not married, what happens to their health care, Doc?
You're absolutely right. You always need that support system next to you that kind of nudges you in. It's tough. All I can tell you is that the more the medical community makes it easy for you, that experience that when you go to a doctor, the more comfortable you are in any situation, all of the answers should be there for you by the time you leave. And this will trickle down. So you will tell your friends will tell others. And this is how we have to make the change.
We know when we go to professionals, whether it's an accountant or lawyer or doctor, we expect them to provide leadership. And if that leadership is not providing, say, hey, the doc didn't tell me about it, whatever. So the healthcare providers, I guess, starting essentially with your primary care, if that's where you are, you got to be able to open up to the doctor and have that real conversation. I have a female lady doctor, right? I have no problem, all right? Because it's really open conversation. But I know that sometimes I can see she's struggling to ask, all right? And it's like, so I'll say, no, it's all right. We can have that conversation. but I know that I'm a little bit more accustomed to it. I used to be a registered nurse a long time ago, so it's like I was more familiar with it.
We have some openings.
Yes, no, well, thank you, thank you. So, yeah, real crisis that's about to go on, or maybe it is. But let's talk about the hospital, some of the changes that are going on in the hospital, what the future looks like.
Yes, exciting. I'm glad you mentioned that. So, Keralty Hospital, Keralty, the organization, has existed for over 40 years in various countries. This is the first hospital that the Keralty organization has obtained. They also are involved in multiple clinics called the Sanitas clinics, and they're expanding. We have approximately 35 in multiple states at this point. So I'm focused on Keralty Hospital. It was purchased approximately about a year ago, and very excited. This organization is very, centered around patient care. This is their motto, essentially. You provide good patient care, everything else will follow. A lot of I can only tell you personally of all the organizations that I've been with. When you deal with organizations that everything is centered around patient care, everything becomes easy. So they're really invested and in the community. What they're doing is, we're bringing in individuals that have a lot of experience, that are invested in the community, the infrastructure. So they're putting in they're putting funds in. What organization comes in and says, you know what, I'll take a loss, but I'm going to put funds in. This organization is putting funds in to improve the infrastructure, the facade. So there's a lot of exciting things that are coming in with the next year.
So how many hospitals are under the umbrella?
In terms of the United States, this is the first hospital that Keralty has obtained, and the future is bright. So
it's been a while since there's only been a couple in the last 25 years that have come down here. So it should be interesting to see how this all washes out. So you have in Miami-Dade County, there are about 6 clinics.
So in the county, in county, there's 10, and Broward as well.
One of the things we recognize is that healthcare has to be next door, all right? Because if it's not next door, we just drive by and we get lost and something happens, all right? So that's certainly a key to getting to the people.
Yeah, in the old days, you if to go see your doctor, you'll travel. And now we want right away anything in terms of fast food or even healthcare. So you're absolutely right. So we have to make it amenable for individuals to see their doctors appropriately. So there's resources that hospitals employ, that we get the patient to the hospital setting or bring the doctor to the patient setting. There's telemedicine, obviously, and COVID has brought that into the forefront as well.
So let's talk about somebody that goes to the doctor and they have a diagnosis that's not real nice, all right? And it could be anything from the whole range of things. From you got diabetes for the first time, or maybe you have cancer. What is that like when you have to talk to the family and to the patient, and to pull that together so they can support each other?
So you mentioned earlier about leadership. So your physician is the leader in that room. And leadership encompasses a lot of qualities. So you have to portray first knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge, you will not attain that respect that you need and that understanding. So you have to exude knowledge for whatever particular matter that's being discussed. So that's number one. Patients need to feel comfortable with your doctor. All right. Report. If we don't, medicine is it's an interesting subject. We're on a human level every single day. Doctors need to stay human at all aspects of our interaction. We're busy. Everyone's busy, but we, at the end of the day, that's a human being in front of you. Behave like one.
So we know we go to the doctor. We remember it well. Went to the doctor. You may not remember his name, but that's my doctor. And on the other side of that, you might have 20, 30, 40 patients a day.
Possibly.
Yeah, or more sometimes. And you see that as extraordinary. And one of the things I certainly like to see is at least stop by the door and remember my name when you walk in. Right? Because that starts that connection. And years ago, I wasn't feeling right. I go to the doctor. I'm on the table. He puts his hand on my shoulder and goes, "What's going on?" I instantly felt better.
That's right.
Just needed somebody's attention. I didn't know why. He runs, probably a zillion dollars worth of tests. Hey, Michael, you're doing fine. But it was just some stressor that was causing that. I wanted to know a pathway in case there was a problem. And so sometimes people complain about a doctor and say, oh, he's too cold or whatever it is. Being compassionate matters a lot, a lot. And we've seen nurses and healthcare givers the last 2 years give of themselves. We just spoke to somebody a little while ago with the COVID and the stress that they were under, right? And the anxiety. I just can't fathom what that would be like to be able to work with COVID patients for that long. And then to be able to walk out in the afternoon and shake your head and go, okay, I'm ready to go play tennis, whatever it is. So you're around these type of things all the time. So what's your coping mechanism with that?
So this is the hardest part of medicine, as a matter of fact. You're looking at an individual who comes to you for help, has an issue, you're resolving their issues, but at the same time, you have your own issues going on. They could be family matters. They could be your own family members might have just passed away from COVID as well. And you're put in a very unique situation where you're going to have to forget about yourself. And so I always, when I teach other doctors or students, I always tell, the patient doesn't deserve your problems. So when you're talking to the patient, it's 100%. 100%. And after you're finished with that conversation, now you're a patient, essentially. You have to learn to cope. You have to learn to deal with it. And we have no choice. We have no choice. So if you move on to the next patient, they might be in an emotional situation with one patient, but the other patient doesn't deserve your emotions at that time. What they deserve is 100% of you.
Did you do a residency in psychiatry?
This has nothing to do with psychiatry. This actually has to just be, you have to be a human. You have to understand a good doctor, in all honesty, is a psychiatrist, is an infectious disease, is an emergency. It encompasses every type of specialty.
I used to run a lot, and I had a partner for years. We'd run, and so one day we're running, and he goes, "How you doing?" And for the first time in 20 years, I said, "Not good." Never said that. Never. And so we stopped. I was holding onto a fence to prevent myself from falling over. I'm looking at the fire rescue. Okay, what am I going to do? And he stood right next to me. I said, I just need to sit down. We sat down for about 20 minutes, all right? And I'm imagining everything that's going to happen, short of a heart attack, all right? Right. 20 minutes later, we finished. And my kids were at the end, and I didn't bring it up to them until I got home. So years go by. He calls me, and we call each other through the pandemic. I said, "Hi, how are you doing?" He says, "Well, Michael, I got COVID." He says, "I know you got your shots, but I want you to think about all the seniors that are out there that didn't have the leverage you had to get your shots early. Michael, this is a disease of loneliness." He says, "You go in the hospital, you can die there, and that's to your family. In your home, you're afraid you're going to give it to your kids." We probably communicated during that couple of weeks, I don't know, 100 times. Text and call and whatever it was. The bond that occurred from that moment that was really set in the stage of a relationship of many years. And that moment when I said to him, I'm not doing well, right? I brought it up to him. I said, "You were there for me."
Right.
And so sometimes you have these moments of this connection, and you realize how powerful that is to help somebody through a stressful place. And besides it being enjoyable, and I think it is our responsibility as human beings to be able to do that when you see that. So when patients come to see you and you see they're in a lot of stress, how do you move them to get them so they can get the care and attention that they need, other than the medical condition that they're having?
So every physician uses different tactics. Let's put it that way. I use humor. The minute I walk in to a patient, they need to be happy, and I'll figure out how. And every individual is a little different. I'll use humor all day long. They have to feel comfortable and happy. That's one of my jobs. Not just giving you medicine, there's this, and then there's this. So there's different tactics, and every individual, in all honesty, and I watch and I observe other doctors, and it's interesting to see how every single person has a different personality, and they'll use whatever they can to, and they try. Every doctor, every physician always tries hard to make that patient feel comfortable, get rid of the stress they need to.
So I had a funny conversation with my urologist. Meanwhile, for years I'm watching the blue pill commercials. I got my teenage daughter there, and I'm going, oh my God, I'm so good. So I just get up and walk out, right? But then when there'd be, Kotex commercials, we'd just sit there and, just sort of look around the room. So I go to the doc and I say, listen, the bedroom's not like it used to be. He said, Michael, they were all living this yellow submarine. It's just where you are in that particular thing. And so in men's health, I think that's primary what I think men think about. How you're performing in the bedroom and your stamina in and around, and low testosterone and exercising. So I think that certainly the pharmaceutical companies have helped bring that out a little bit. But there hasn't been this next wave. When it was first there, it was like, okay, let's talk about it. What is the next wave of awareness that we're going to be at?
The media helps. As a matter of fact, from a physician's perspective, it really helps. A lot of our patients are much more educated than we've seen over the last 10, 20 years. So, the more pharmaceutical companies, the more government, city, local communities get involved, and they figure out platforms, this platform, all right, this is how we're going to connect. And the patient always, a little more knowledge, they'll be more comfortable.
One of the great things that's happened since the pandemic, we were doing a little bit of this before. It was really more of a bother. We had actually started in 2017. We did a little bit of it. Oh, then we got to get somebody else. We got to do this. We got to do that. So we realized in the fall of 2019, we had to do things to spruce some things up. When we first started this, it was an iPhone on a table on a $20 stand. The line of people was out the door, literally, right? I went, what is going on?
Right.
How this is this new way of connection. And what we realized over these last couple of years, that we have a responsibility to do this, to be able to share this information. My father's in radio and TV from the 50s and 60s. And there are many times that who knew, 50 years later, I would be in front of a microphone, bringing in people and helping people. The connections that we've been able to do, because people want that connection. And we know that it's important for us as a community and for me personally to be able to share these health issues. We've really been pushing a lot with mental health care because we see the kind of damage that has happened to people. And we want you to come back again and talk about more issues that men are having and how to take this stigma and raise it up a little bit so we can smile about it and go, hey, the problem you were having yesterday? I just had it, all right? And so that we feel better, that we don't feel so alone, with that. And I was with a group of people the other day and made some comment, and he's sort of like, me too. And I go, okay, all right, just like the doc
There
said,
you go.
all right, things are different, all right?
Right.
And I think that it's important for us to understand, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and that conversation, we can't perceive the other sex and understanding it because as they can't with us. I think there are a lot of guys that like MMA boxing. I went and saw some not too long ago. Went crazy, right? And when the women were boxing, I went crazier. The whole crowd went crazy. Why is that? Because we're hardwired with that.
That's how we are. Yes.
It just is. You don't have to think about it.
Right.
It just is. All right. It was a great fight. Bare knuckles. All right.
Oh, really? I like UFC as well.
so it's been a pleasure talking with you. Continued success to you, and we want you to come back. All right. And we can do one other person if you'd like, all right? And I think that it's important for us to provide the service that we can. Doc, thanks so much.
I appreciate you so much for having us. Thank you for this
we got
platform.
30 seconds left here. I want you to talk right into this camera over here, this one over here, guys, and talk to some young person that's looking for a future, all right? Tell them about what their future could be.
So your future is definitely bright. All you have to do is try, and you have to show up. That's all you have to do. There are many people around you that will help along the way. You just have to, the door is always open. You just have to walk through it.
Dr. Chandra.
Chaudhry.
Chandra, we're pretty good here.
No
Okay,
problem.
from Keralty Hospitals. All right, and they have clinics all over, 10 clinics down here. All right, you can look them up all over Google and pay attention. They're making big moves in Miami-Dade County and around the country. Folks, thanks so much for joining us, and be safe out there. And thanks to our producers. Our first show over there for Junior and Andres. Thank you very much. Way to go, Junior. Let's sign us out.